Must really be on an Italian kick now, making some pasta with vodka sauce. Man, oh man, it is one of the best pasta dishes. The sauce is creamy, tomatoey, just it really goes well. I'm gonna make some homemade meatballs as well. Give them a try. They're even good on just slicing up some bread, having that in a sandwich style as well. It just depends on how big you make your meatballs. So let's go ahead and get down to making this pasta a la vodka sauce with some homemade meatballs. All right, so let's get this pasta party off by starting to make some meatballs. First thing, put down some EVOO, some extra virgin olive oil, and we're going to saute a half of an onion, add about an 1/8 inch dice, and 2 cloves of minced garlic. Get these nice and translucent. Add some salt and pepper to this before adding the garlic. Add in your crushed garlic, minced garlic. And let those get to know each other a little bit. Also going to put in a pinch of red pepper flakes. Turned off the heat. So now we're just going to let these sit here and the flavors get to know each other a little bit while we finish up the other piece to our meatballs. Okay, for the rest of the meatballs, what we need to do is add in 1 pound of ground beef, and I got the kind that you get at the store. If I could have found what I needed to make my own ground beef, I would have ground some chuck up to make that. I like that a little bit better because, as you see, what you get at the store is a little compressed, and what you can make at home is not as packaged as much. So whenever you grind it, you're going to see that they almost come out like little pebbles, whereas this is in long strands and pushed all together. Then add into that a 1/2 pound of ground pork. So this is a pork and beef meatball. If you can't find any ground pork, you could use all beef if you want, but I like the fattiness of the pork that we're adding into this, and it gives a really good flavor. Add in 2 whole eggs, 1 cup of grated Parmesan. And again, I couldn't find the whole block of Parmesan at the store. Do not get that green shaker kind. This is the best quality shredded Parmesan or grated Parmesan that I could find. So we need a cup of that, 1/4 cup of fresh parsley. Again, I couldn't find any parsley at the store, so I had to buy this dried kind. Then add the onion and garlic and red pepper flake mixture from before. This is what makes these meatballs great. I've had homemade meatballs before, but adding this to it really steps it to another league. I have a 1/2 cup of water standing by because I don't know the consistency of this yet. So if it's a little too dry, I can wet it up a little bit with the water. So it's just standing by. I'm gonna just get in here with my hands and mix it up. All right, so once everything looks good and combined, then we're going to make equal size balls out of this. So what I would say the best way to do that is get your kitchen scale and weigh the total weight and then divide it up into 8 or 10 meatballs, however many you're gonna make. Okay, so I have my kitchen scale. Just gonna hold on to the meat so I can zero out that scale. This is about 36 ounces, so I'm gonna make 3.5-ounce meatballs, and that's going to get me about 10 of them. Turning our attention to our sauce, we're going to need to process one 28-ounce can of San Marzano tomatoes. So just dump those in, sauce and all. Put the lid on. Make sure it's plugged in. And mix. Looks good. Now let's take it over to the stove and put the rest of our sauce in. Now our meatballs are ready to go. All we have to do is cook them up. So one thing that I love to do is get that real nice crust on them. So first we're going to put some avocado oil in a large pot or a large skillet that we are going to put the meatballs in to get that nice crust on the outside. I'm using avocado oil instead of olive oil or butter because avocado oil has a very high smoke point, and the higher the smoke point, then we don't have to worry about some off flavors being imparted into our meatballs. So that's why I chose avocado oil. We want to hear that sizzle when they go in. Not going to overcrowd the pan. Work in batches. I also have a greased pan here ready to go. I'm going to put those meatballs onto this so that way when they cook, they're going to soak up some of that grease that's going to seep out. So I want to capture that, and so that's why I'm putting directly on the pan. That looks good. We're getting there, so I'm going to flip it over. Once these meatballs have the color that you're looking for, go ahead and place them onto our greased baking sheet. These aren't by no way done yet. They're just, we're going to put them into the oven at 350 degrees for about 15 minutes and let them cook on the inside. So I'm going to do round 2 and we'll put these into the oven. Our sauce story starts off similar to the meatball story in that we're going to put 2 tablespoons of butter and saute some garlic in before we put anything else. Add 2 cloves of garlic. Let those get to know each other until they become fragrant, and then we'll add in the rest of our warm tea. You want to be really careful when cooking with garlic because if it burns, it becomes bitter. So these golden pieces are okay, but any darker than that, you're burning the garlic and you're going to have a little bit of an off taste. It's not going to ruin it, but it's just going to be a little bit off taste. Add in the San Marzano tomatoes that we had from the last step and pour them in. Also add 1/4 cup of vodka. And mix it combined, and we're going to let this simmer for 10 minutes. Alright, our meatballs are just about ready. Yep. Looking good. By the way, some of this white goo that is beside the meatballs are some of the Parmesan cheese that we had in there. So we're going to make sure that we get all that flavor whenever we go to serve these. Our sauce has been simmering for about 10 minutes now. Give it another stir. I've been stirring every so often too, just to get really anything that's stuck to the bottom off. We're getting to a good consistency with it, and we're going to add in the creaminess to this. For the cream team, add 1 cup of heavy cream. Make sure you stir as you add it. It's gonna lighten up. It's all right. This is a pink sauce. Add 3/4 cups of grated Parmesan. I'm gonna keep stirring so that way you know nothing's getting sunk down to the bottom and sticking there. Finally, we'll add 1 tablespoon of parsley. Mix everything in and simmer for another 10 minutes. After your sauce has simmered, it's time to plate everything up. So I have the pasta that I'm going to use, and I'm going to take a meatball, put it right on it. There we go. And then take our sauce. See how pink and creamy that is? This is just perfect. And I'm just gonna lay it right on top of all of the pasta as well. I'm gonna put just a little bit more Parmesan cheese on top. A little fresh parsley to brighten it up. There's our dish. Let's go ahead and take a bite. Oh yeah, look at so much flavor in that meatball. I want to make sure I get a little bit of everything here. Noodle with some sauce and the meatball. Man, right there. If you haven't tried making this, or if you've never had it, you got to go ahead and try it. You put a little extra sauce on these, but you got to give these a go. Try making your homemade meatballs. You're never going to want to get anything else other than that. So thank you so much for joining in, and we'll see you next time. All right, that is it. Now you've made some homemade meatballs with the vodka sauce on that pasta. If you're making your own pasta, kudos to you. If you haven't or never have before, I'm gonna make a video on that, but I didn't want to put too much into one video. So thank you so much for coming along on this Italian journey. Hope you give both of those a try. They're really filling, really nice. The sauce freezes really, really well if you want to keep that for a couple weeks, couple months. Go ahead and throw that into the freezer. Same with the meatballs. Just par freeze those first if you're using a vacuum sealer, so that way they don't smush whenever you put them into that vacuum sealer. If you don't have a vacuum sealer, I highly recommend it, because a lot of things that you make, you don't want to just throw away your leftovers. Go ahead and put those into a vacuum sealer, seal them, and put them into the freezer. So thank you so much for stopping in again. If you'd like to follow along on social media, you can follow me at Food Brew BBQ on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. If you want to follow along on Instagram, that's at tskidmore49. And if you have any recipe requests or anything that you want to let me know about the show, please email me at foodbrewbbq@gmail.com. So that's it for me for this week. I'll cook with you next time.